All right, welcome to the Mythos Podcast. We have our second guest on the episode, Zachary Shiner. He is actually the owner of Unwell Barbell. We met, I think it was like 2 years ago, right? When Origin opened, or
right when Origin opened.
Right when Origin opened.
A month after.
Yeah, so we met, and one of the things that highlighted, he started this company, and we'll have him dive into it a little bit further about why he did it. But it stood out to me, especially in a time where I was creating a ton of cinematic content. A lot of the stuff was like self-isolation, overcoming mental health, all of those things, right? And that's kind of the journey of what got me to pick up a camera. And I was like, man, this guy is starting a brand similar of what I was doing with my content, where he wanted to create a mission. One of the mission statements that he had, and he can even echo this a little bit, but it carried out, he created a YouTube video. And if you guys want to check it out, go to his YouTube channel. It's Zachary.
Yep. Zachary.
And he explains why he wanted. And one of the things that really stood out to me, he says, everyone carries an invisible barbell that holds the weight of their struggles. The Unwell Barbell brand wants to help carry that weight for you, giving you the space to speak openly about what you're going through and reminding you to rely on the community around you. And I think that's something that really stood out to me. And, you know, every time that we've had the encounterment, we've had nothing but good conversations about things that maybe they're doing business-wise. But on a personal level, I wanted to dive in further exactly what your story is and what got you to this point. So if you can kind of introduce yourself and what led you to get to this point.
Yeah. I'm Zach Shiner. Started Unwell Barbell back in 2023. And it's funny, that's actually like what you're saying is the videos of the self-isolation is kind of what made me like to see there's like a business opportunity in it too. Cause it was kind of like all I was consuming at that time. And so just kind of seeing like, man, a lot of people are struggling with this too and using the gym as an outlet. Realize that there like is a business opportunity there.
Yep.
So for me, just like I said, just having my own struggles going through it. And then I started going to the gym. I think it was like right after a breakup, just like the normal guy thing. And just being like going to the gym with my best friend. And we're both just like, okay, let's go sign up, do a membership. We did Planet Fitness, of course. And then I just started loving it. Then we switched over to EOS. And it was just crazy, like, I could feel like on the days that I didn't go, just how much worse I felt.
Yep.
And so really that's just been one of the biggest outlets for me now is just going to the gym.
Amazing, man. And before what even led you into the gym, do you mind kind of going back into, because I know that in the YouTube video, you talked about you struggled with a lot of depression that led you into therapy, but then also showing up to the communities of gyms. And we were talking before this, the importance of your atmosphere that you're in and like the surroundings that you have. Who were you before everything unfolded, and what got you into like that darker place, and then what shifted into that community?
Yeah, I think, who I was before, just kind of a loser, honestly. I mean, I was someone who, like, back in like middle school is really when I started getting into just my depressed era. Really, like, what it stemmed down to is just the lack of purpose for me. And so all I thought, like, and kind of what we're taught is, you go to school, you do this every day for 5 days a week, so you can get a job and do that every day for 5 days a week. And then maybe when you're 60, that you'll be able to have some fun and do what you want, travel the world, whatever, right?
Yep.
And, with the lack of, like, faith and stuff I had at that time, because I didn't have a great experience with the Mormon church here in Utah. And so I was just like, there's no purpose of me just continuing day after day so I can go to school that I hate and get a job that I hate, and then maybe in, like, at this time, 50 years, be able to retire and actually do what I care about and what I want to do. And purpose is what I feel like this is like the first time that I feel like I haven't struggled with, like, what's my purpose in life, or like, am I doing something that's fulfilling to me? because it's been 3 months I've been doing this full time now for Unwell Barbell. I just barely was able to quit my job. So I'm finally in the place that's like, I have somewhat of a purpose. We'll see how long it lasts. I might switch later, but yeah. And so I think going back to like when I was saying it started, because I didn't see a purpose, I kind of just was like, obviously depressed. And so just like using terrible ways to cope with it, just like smoking weed and just, doing whatever. Just 'cause I was like, it doesn't really matter, because like if it gets bad enough, I can just kill myself and I don't have to worry about it. And so I think that's really just like what caused my issue. And then, I think the importance of like a good therapist is huge, and like vet your therapist, go do one session with them, go to another one, because I've had so many that if I would have just did them, it would not have worked out. And so, cause like they would just be like, I would go there and be like, this is what I'm struggling with. Like, I feel like there's no reason for me to live because it sucks. And they're just like, well, that's life. And I'm like, well, that's why I'm here. Like, I don't want to live that life.
Yeah.
And so I think that's a huge thing too, is just like controlling what you can control. And one thing's your therapist. You can control which therapist you have too. But I've also heard bad stories where they just like encourage you on whatever. You're like, I'm doing this bad thing. They're like, oh, that's okay, as long as you're feeling better. Right. So, but yeah, I think, and that's why we had one of our drops called Purpose too, is because I think that everyone needs to find their purpose, and otherwise they're not going to have a fulfilling life.
Yep. Yeah. And I kind of want to touch on the whole, like, and then we lead back into the purpose side. But the thing that you really focused on was starting with the counselor, right? I think, cause I had mixed emotions on this too. Where when I was struggling with everything that I had over 3.5 years ago, before I became sober, one of the things that I was trying to do was I was leveraging all the counselors as a way to get an answer. And none of them was giving me the right answer. They just kept like deflecting what I wanted to hear. And they were like, okay, well, how do you feel about that? So do you feel like the counselor was a huge pivotal moment, or did it allow you to open your mind to find the right community outside of it? And then having both of them was what, like, you can kind of like, okay, I can info dump on one person without judgment, but then I have the community itself. Like, do you think, what was like kind of like the push, or was it just finding the right counselor to kind of like help you see a different perspective?
I don't know. I think that for me, the counselors were more, I don't want to say like, I don't think they really like gave me any like life-changing advice. I think it's just someone to be there for you a lot. And I think that, yeah, I mean, just someone to be there for you, and then just a way for you to like, sometimes when you say something out loud, you're like, oh, that's like stupid. Like, that's not what it is, And so you're like, man, this like challenge is so like horrible. Like, and you like start explaining it, and you're like, this kind of sounds silly. Like, it's actually not that big of a deal. And obviously that's not always the case. Sometimes it is a huge deal, and you have to talk through it and what it is. But I think that helped me a lot, because like sometimes it was like, I feel like a lot of time I would just be like, man, this is like such a horrible thing that's happening.
Yeah.
And then like just some perspective of like that there's like people that have like way worse. Like, they don't have a house, they don't have, like, okay, like that's a good reality check. And that's what I needed, is someone just to be like upfront with me and like very direct. Because like you're saying, if someone like beats around it with me, I can just sulk in it. And I think that that's just like, you need to know who you are and like what you need, because you need to build your own community, obviously. And so I think that if you don't know what you need and what your personality is, then you're just going to go in circles and keep living the life you have. But like every boss I've had, I've always told them, I need you to be very direct with me. Like, you won't hurt my feelings. Just like, if you need something done, just tell me. And I think that's just how I've just learned I need it to be, because if you just beat around it with me, I'll just be like, oh, like, it's not that bad. It's okay. Like, and then nothing will change.
Yep. Dude, that is a great point, because I think when we hear all these things, like even with the Mythos podcast, we're talking about surrounding yourself with the right community. And you have to be careful with the right community, because some communities that you might surround yourself with, or friendships or relationships, they may make you feel good, again, where they may tell you what you want to hear, but it's not what you need to hear. And I think that is where the right community will hold you accountable. There's many, many times that I've seen where you'll see these people with forming a brotherhood, and that brotherhood is all about like hyping each other up, which is really great, and supporting them. But if I'm going off rails and I'm doing all of these things that are not good for me, whether it's like sinful things, or maybe I'm relapsing, or maybe I'm being lazy, or maybe I keep saying that I want to do something, but then like actions don't follow it, like, and your brotherhood is not holding you accountable, saying, hey, you said that you wanted these XYZ goals, but you're not actually follow through with them. It's like, is that really the right community that you want to be with? Because in order to get to where you want to be and having that purpose, you have to have some sort of friction. And without friction, there is no growth, And I think that is what you allowed yourself to do with the counselor, is you finally had a place where you met somebody that was like, hey, this is what you got to do. And then in your mind, you're like, okay, there's the friction. So then when I go out into the world now, I understand that I have to push through the adversity, versus when we were stuck in that loophole of all of the negative things in our life, we just kept numbing ourselves, whether it was like getting high, getting drunk, all of those things, because it made us feel good and maybe we were getting validations through it, versus like having a friction and being like, because facing it sucks. Yeah. But then once you face it and you realize that you can hit those barriers or breakthroughs, like then the progress starts to be made. And I think that is when you know you're in the right community, when like, this is why I think gym communities are important. Because when you're in the gym, what happens when you're lifting something heavy? What are the people doing?
They're all either watching or running over to make sure you're not dying.
Yeah, but they're like making sure that you hit that extra lift. Like especially where you go to Origin, like, they're like, they see that you're going, I know countless of people that are like, one more. That's the same thing that you correlate in life, is like, if somebody is saying you go one more day, or one more, like go push through this, right? Yeah. You're going to essentially force yourself to get through those barriers. And that's where the right community comes in place.
I think, one thing that's not talked about enough is like the part when you have no community at all. Like, because you talked about like you have a bad community, but then when you're like leaving that bad community to try to find a good one. I remember when I was trying to get sober from drugs, it was like, obviously my friends at the time were all doing it, and so I was like, okay, like I just need to cut them off, like that's what's going to be best for me. And so then it was a bit of my life, like I'd say like a year and a half, like I just didn't have any friends, and I just didn't talk to anyone. I just went to worked as much overtime as I could, just was on the grind, but just to do anything to keep my mind off of like not doing drugs and stuff, right? And so I think like, I don't know, Alex Hormozy talks about it too, just that like lonely chapter. And I think that it's just so important to like, that's okay to like jump into that lonely chapter, because you know that it'll like work out better. Like, and then also if you're in that chapter, start going to a gym, start doing anything, even if it's not like you don't want to go bodybuild, go to like a rock climbing gym, like a pickleball gym, like basketball court, whatever. If you go there enough at the same time, same days, you'll build a community, and it'll be a healthy one that people are trying to like better themselves.
Yeah. So do you think, what was your routine to get into that lonely chapter? Because I think that's where a lot of people relapse, right? Yeah. You have, when you're trying to maybe get away from the addiction of drugs, what's the first thing that causes it? Loneliness, right? Because then you get to numb that loneliness. Was there some sort of like routine or really a pivotal moment that you were like, this is helping me almost fulfill this new numbness?
I would say one, like get a dog. First off, dogs are your best friends, but also like when I get depressed, I just want to lay in bed, right? Like I just sulk. And so dogs will make you get up, feed them, take them out to the bathroom, like walk them, right? And so it gets you up doing stuff. So then that puts you in somewhat of a routine. Like even now I have 3 dogs, and it's like morning, feed them at this time, take them out at these 3 times, and like it just forces me to have a routine, whether I like it or not, because I have to take care of this living being. So that was one. I came home with a little husky one day, and the other things is just like, I think just finding whatever you can that like brings you some joy. So just try a bunch of different hobbies. And so I really got into painting for a while. Terrible at it, but it was fun. Just jam out to music and paint for a bit. So I think just having some sort of hobbies is going to be, and just trying different things. Just go out, and this is your time to, I don't know, I don't want to say find yourself because that just sounds like cliche, but I think it is your time to go find like what your purpose is and like what you're going to do for the next bit.
Dude, I think some sort of form of art. Like when you think about when we were kids, like what did we had the most craziest imagination as kids.
I know. I was just thinking, I went to Hawaii just barely with my nephews, and they would be like playing these games and stuff, and I was like, how do you even think of this? Like I was just like, I don't like have that imagination anymore. Like
but I think it's because at some point we're told that after we turn 18, it's like, or even like when they're 16, and kids even younger nowadays are forced to grow up so early that we lose sight of what humans were meant to do. And I think that is like, we all have like some sort of artistic ability, whether it's with a camera, drawing, like some sort of dancing form of art. Like everything is art, because when we were kids, that's the only thing that really got us to learn how to like do things in life, you know? And like when you're driving down the road nowadays, kids don't play outside. I remember like we would be out there, like our parents were like trying to drag us in. Now it's like people are like trying to get them out.
Get them off the iPads.
And so as humans, art is such a beautiful thing, whether you're good at it or not. And I think like anybody should be recommended to like test their artistic ability, because
even if you're bad at it, I think it's just so good for you. And that might just be like personal, you know, whatever. I'm no doctor on it, but I think that just my experience, like any form of art has been good for me, whether it's a pen and paper or just a paintbrush, or now just doing the designs for the t-shirts. I think it's just huge.
Is that what led you into doing t-shirt designs, or is t-shirt designs something that you've always had a passion for?
You know, I don't know what, I think that honestly, I just thought it was cool seeing, you know, as gym I was using as the coping mechanism for a bit, right? And so I was obviously watching like Sebum and Vaughn and stuff on YouTube. And so seeing their like raw nutrition shirts come out or just whatever, Dark Sport was obviously a really cool brand at the time and still is. And so I think that, you know, I think it's just a cool thing, I thought. And like I said, it's just that it's an easy business to get into. That's why there's so many clothing brands pop up every day. It's a low upfront cost. I think you can get Shopify for $1 and then however many shirts you want to risk it on, right? And so I think that was part of it, is just like I said, I saw a lot of the lonely chapter of like the self-isolation gym videos. And so that's when I knew that like there was something to it, something more. And I was like, I don't know. It really made me feel seen too, as I was like, oh, other people are using this as an outlet too. Like, it's not just like, I'm not crazy going to the gym to like get rid of my depression. And so I think that was really cool, seeing that. And so I think that's just part of what like led me to it, is just like, how can I do something with this? And then it was like t-shirts is the obvious thing, or like easiest thing. I don't know, like people always ask me if I'm going to open a gym. I don't know if I ever would. Probably not in Utah. It's a very competitive market now. I mean,
there's so many opening up.
Yeah, I think there's more on the way.
Yeah.
So I get messages all the time like, hey, we're going to be opening, come film here. And I'm like, all right, but but I do, like, every time I see like a plot of land for sale, I'm like, would that be a good gym? So I don't know. I don't think it'd ever be in Utah if we did, but I don't know where the next chapter will be for it either. So
Yeah. I mean, that's awesome, man. And I think, I mean, it goes to show the community that you're building. I mean, I've been watching it since like almost the beginning, I feel like.
Yeah.
And it's, it's always what stood out to me the most. The other thing when it comes to building those communities and having those things, and I know you talked about counseling, but was there somebody in your life that made you who you are today? Like you could look back and be like, this person was like my mentor, or is continuously be your inspiration in person
I don't know.
Outside?
There's a lot of people that have influenced it. I would say my oldest brother, he did like a t-shirt company when he was in high school and didn't amount to anything, but he started it and like just he had aspirations, and even now he's doing like a media company and stuff. And so I think he's kind of what like showed me that like you can kind of like start your own thing and like try it out, and if it fails, it fails. But and like I said, he does a media company, so he can help me out all the time now. And he's really good to just bounce things off of too. I think I definitely want to be here without my fiance. I think she supports and believes in the brand more than I do. And so I think I'm very grateful and lucky for that. I just think, honestly, I'm very close to my family. They're very supportive now. But I think as like one pivotal moment was one of my counselors like told them like, you guys are like fighting each other. And of course I was just an angry teenager too, who just hated everything.
Yeah.
And it was just like, you guys are like fighting each other instead of like trying to fight like the core issue, like the depression. And I think that really clicked for all of us. And then that's like when we became united. And ever since then I've had a great support system. But before that, it was like, I feel like I didn't have any. So I feel like that was a huge pivotal moment for me.
Do you think that was a big, kind of what leaned away from you to maybe having those decisions early in life where you were like going towards drugs? Was it a lot of the things stem from your childhood? Do you think it was like trying to fill a void or some sort of like, hey, look at me finally at some point?
I don't think so. I think my parents were pretty good. I think that it is the lack of community that kind of caused me to go slip into a bad community. I wasn't okay being alone in middle school. And so I think, my best friend at the time who I played baseball with and stuff, he moved to Arizona right before we were going to middle school together. And then my friends that I had in elementary school, there's the two different, it was like Harriman Middle School or whatever, and then the South Hills. Mm-hmm. There's two different middle schools, and so the friends I was going with went over there. I went to South Hills. My best friend just moved. And so then I was like, shit, I don't have any community here. I don't got any friends to go into this with. And so it was really just like who was accepting at the time, and it just wasn't the best group of friends that, And so I think that was a big part of why I slipped into that, is just because I wanted to belong in something. Mm-hmm. And so that's what they were doing. So that's what I started doing and stuff. And then just starting to use it to cope too, because that's when I started going through my crisis of life is meaningless.
Yeah. Yeah, dude. And I think like you said, when you're starting to put things together and you're like trying to find the right people, I also will say like one of the things that stood out is the fact that you have a really good relationship with your partner.
Yeah.
I think that is just something that is super valuable for somebody that failed his past relationships. Mm-hmm. I was like, okay, what do I need to do in order to progress in my future relationships? And that's like having good people into my life that is good examples of how they treat their people. When it comes to relationships like that, what is some like things that you've learned from your past that help you, be the best fiance and future husband?
That's hard. I mean, it's funny. She hates just the fact that I've been with anyone else or anything, right? Just,
mm-hmm.
just what it is.
It's always how it goes.
Yeah. When I think about her with anyone else too, it just makes me sick. So, but honestly, it's just like, I know I was a terrible first boyfriend. I didn't know how to be a boyfriend. And so I feel like if I would have been that for, it would not have worked. And so it is just like everyone you learn something from. And it's funny, right before her, I got cheated on, and it was just a terrible relationship. And so I was just like, I'm done. I'm done dating. I'm never going to get married. I'm just going to, be the fun single Uncle Zach. And of course, it's always when you say that you meet your person. But I think that, I don't know if there's anything specific. I think just like I said earlier, of just me and my parents being like, it's you two like fighting each other when you should be fighting this external thing. I think that's been a huge thing, is like us fighting the problem together instead of us fighting with each other about the problem.
Yep.
Because if you just make sure you're always a team on it and stuff, I think that's going to be huge for it.
Yeah, dude. That's communication. We talked about this in the last episode, where having that like balance between being open and communicating to your person and also still like being strong for her, right, is like a very good fine line and balance, because women are more emotional and they do need reassurance. And I think a lot of times with us, especially in the past, I'm sure that we used to think, suppress your emotions. Yeah. We're just dudes. Like, we don't need to openly talk about that. But then you're actually missing a piece there, where it's like they do need to know that you're almost human a little bit, but also knowing that you have controlled over those emotions, that she feels safe enough that you keep leading. Is that something that you had to learn through this relationship, or is it something that you had to learn from your past failures of relationships?
I feel like I've been good about communicating, and just the balance of it, right? Because you do need to be that support for them that they can trust and think that you'll protect them and everything, right? So I think that, going to therapy is what got me open and used to talking about my feelings. And so if you just go to therapy and you're just like the suppressed emotions, you're just wasting money. You're not, you're not getting anywhere. And so I think that's important for it as well. Just saying it just gives you a lot of good life skills, because if I didn't know how to talk about my feelings and emotions, but I do feel like it's more that I'm always like, okay, let's talk about this now. And not that she doesn't or anything. But I do feel like I kind of opened her up to that more, of just no, let's just talk about it and let's figure this out together. Versus just being upset and sitting and being upset, because I hate just letting each other sit and be upset for a while, Yep. So I think I might annoy her that way. I'm just no, we're figuring this out now.
I love it, dude. Yeah, I think that comes with some past trauma. It's just you want to solve it, and then you may be paranoid enough to where it's is it me? If it is me, let me really solve it. Or if it's not me, I want to be the hero of it.
That is my issue, is that if she's just upset, I assume it's me immediately. And so if we don't talk about it, it's just going to make it way worse for both of us. And we're both going to be upset for things that don't even matter and that aren't even real. And so that's why I'm so stubborn. I'm no, we're talking about it right now. Or at least just tell me what it is and we can talk about it later. But otherwise, I'm just going to sit and sulk in it. So
yeah, love it, dude. Hey, so I'm going to read off this quote, and it's something that I want to start doing, where I would love to hear how you take this, and if you want to dive further into maybe your reflection off of this.
Yeah.
Because we talk about, going through struggle, maybe facing something, you go to a counselor, you go to a men's retreat, and all of these things, right? And at what point do we, what do we do with it? And so there's this message that I read, and I was like, man, this is powerful because it resonates with myself. And so I'd love to hear your input on this. But avoiding the pain only gives it more power. Healing doesn't happen when everything feels comfortable. It happens when you face the things you've been running from. But the moment you say, I'm done hiding, the power shifts. You step into ownership, into courage, into forward motion. You take back your life one decision at a time, and slowly the things that once controlled you become the things you overcame.
I love that. I think, so one of the things we say a lot, right, is it's okay not to be okay. And I stand by that. That's a very okay thing. A lot of people aren't. But what's not okay is to just accept the fact that you're not okay and stay there. And so I think that, like what I was saying, is just that, if you don't do anything, you're just going to stay in the same place. And so I see that it's just like, if you go to therapy, they tell you this stuff, you're like, that was terrible advice, and then you don't do it, right?
Yeah.
That would have worked in my situation.
Such a guy thing right there, too. Yeah.
Well, because it's, I don't know, we think we're unique, or we're like, obviously if it was that simple, I would have thought of it, right? Like, it's just that pride in there. And so I think that it'd be really stupid not to take their advice and try out. And then I always looked at it, and one of my therapists told me, like, if you try it and it doesn't work, you can come and rub it in my face. Mm-hmm. And it was like, that was like what I needed. It was just like, okay, like, yeah, I'll just do your stupid plan and see how it works, right? And then it worked. I had to do.
Yeah.
So I tell them, like, shit, it actually worked. There's a reason you do this job. But so yeah, I think that you have to actively work on it and just accepting that it's one of the things that Alex Ramosi says, and I might quote him a lot.
I love Alex.
I love him so much, but he just always says, like, this is the story I'll tell later. And I think that that's so powerful to me. It's just like, whatever I'm going through, it's going to be so fun to tell this story later, right? Like, and so I think that, and just like, what a better story, like, the worse it is, the better the story is going to be later, right? And so I think that is something I tell myself a lot. And so it's okay to be in this time, and just remember that, like, you'll either tell your kids, or maybe you'll be fortunate enough to be on a podcast and be able to tell your story too. I think it's just important to know that, like, it's good to be okay or not to be okay right now, but what are you doing to fix it?
Yeah, love that, dude. Yeah, it's such a powerful thing to take, dude. It's a hard thing, but a powerful thing to finally take ownership, because there's a lot of things in ownership that are just embarrassing a little bit. Yeah. Because, it is such a difficult task to admit, hey man, I'm actually addicted to these things. I'm addicted to pornography. I'm addicted to this stuff. Because when you hear you say those things, you're like, whoa, why do I do that?
Yeah.
So we know it's not right, but it's teaching your brain when you're in the moment to not feel like that is what we need. And I think that comes all the way back to, like, when you get into those moments, be okay with being alone. Like, sit with yourself for a second. Because I think every single moment, because we still struggle with it. I'm sure you can tell me if I'm wrong, but still to this day, there's things that come into your mind that you still struggle with that kind of puts you in a darker spot. Yeah. And you may feel like you're going to relapse, but you've realized that, okay, I just got to sit with it. I'm going to go maybe be present with my fiance, or I'm going to go work a little bit more. And this is where people are like, oh man, addiction is bad. No, everybody's addicted to something, whether it's good or bad. Mm-hmm. You just need to teach your brain that it's okay to be addicted to these things that are healthy for you. Now, don't let those also over control you, because if you're so hyper focused into your work, you're going to be less of a person for your partner, for your friendships, and for your family. But if you have enough addiction where you can control the mentality that you have that would make you relapse in the past, where you're just trying to get that spike and then come back to reality of, like, okay, now I'm able to, like, make progress, right? So with that, for me, one of the things that I also, and I would love your input on this, and I talk about this every time, where I don't care what your background is, right? I know that you said that you struggled with the Mormon church in the past. And when we think about how we're moving forward in the future, having community and all of those things, one of the things that really helped me is like every once in a while just sit with Christ, right? And having a higher purpose. The similar thing with like Dante is like, that was on the last episode, is he doesn't have a religion, and he doesn't have, in his mind, he doesn't know if he has faith. What he has is that he does believe something created us all, you know? And I think that's still beautiful because it still holds you accountable, having some sort of higher purpose. So do you have something that's like, that you believe that is higher than you, that you've kind of leaned on, that's helped you fill a lot of voids?
I don't know. I think it's hard for me. And then dive into it, obviously. It's just like, for me, I think that there's a lot of terrible things in the world. And so if there was a God, I think that, and we're all his children, right, that he wouldn't let these things happen. And so one of the sayings a lot is like, he gives his like toughest battles to his strongest soldiers, right? That's the thing, right? And so my thing is always just like, well, like, is all of his strongest soldiers like children in Africa, right? And so it's just like, obviously they don't have water resources. Like, if you're creating this, why not give them a little bit more equal of a thing, right? And I know there's the two sides, right? Like, so I don't know. I think that I am open to it. I'm agnostic, where it's just like kind of on the fence of like, I feel like I almost, and maybe it's just from like past trauma, but maybe it's just like, I need to see it to believe it. And not that like I need to see like Jesus himself, but I feel like I need to see more proof of something for me, whether it be like, because a lot of times in church, I hear people giving their talks and being like, I felt this spirit not to do this or not. And I feel like, I don't know, for me, it's always just like myself telling me that. And maybe that is the being, you know, the Holy Spirit or whatever telling me this. And so I don't know. I think I just need a little more. I do always say like the universe and stuff. And that's my like being of just like my higher power. So just like the universe has this in plan for us or whatever, which I think can also be a slippery slope because it'll just lead people not to do stuff too. Be like, oh, like the universe or God has it figured out for me. Like if we do, you have to do the stuff in his plan or in the universe's plan to make it work. But I also just have an issue with it of just like, the reason I hope it's not true is because then I think like I don't have control of my life either. And again, that might be just my past. But I want like, if me to fail, like it's my fault. It's not because it's because of some larger plan to make me be better. I want it to be because like I did something wrong and I can learn from it and then do that, right? And I think that's why like I was miserable at all my jobs, is because I couldn't control it. And so I don't know if I'm just like a control freak in that way, but it's just like, I remember my last job I just quit. It was like I kept getting screwed out of commission. And I was just like, if I'm not making money, I want it to be my fault. Like I didn't run the right ads. I didn't like make the right shirt. I want it to be my fault so I can learn from it. Not like, okay, like that's just company policy. Like I have to deal with it. And so I kind of want that to be the same with like just life. It's like, if I screw up or if I do something good, it's on me. It's not because some higher power has this in plan for me. And I know it doesn't exactly work like that, but that's just how I've always seen it too.
Yeah, I think, dude, here's the thing is I don't think there's any wrong answer or anything like that. I think that was a beautiful answer, because what I believe when it comes to rooted in faith, and I think this is where religion has a gap, where they believe that you have to have this like perfect path in the way that you believe, in the way that you do things. And then it almost leads you down the path of like, okay, as long as I check the boxes here, then I get rooted into my belief.
Yeah.
But the truth is the beautiful part about Christ and what really allows people to do their own choices, right? And it is, if I always revert back to James 5:8, where Jesus Christ will stand right in front of you and never force you to believe, but he wants you to do it yourself.
Yeah.
You know, where he says, pick up your mat and walk. Where that doesn't mean the church is like, hey, let me hold your hand and walk with you.
Yeah.
Right? Jesus is literally standing there wanting you to come to him when you feel like your decision is being made, and also for you to walk the path with him. And that's the beauty of it is there's no sense of right or wrong way that you find your path. And it doesn't matter how long it takes or whatever it might be. Or maybe if you maybe just believe that like this is the path that I'm just going to take, and it's still that Christ will still always love you, because you resemble of what a person of faith is, in my opinion, because you have a great relationship with your partner, right? You work really hard, and you're on a mission to set purpose to make a difference into the world. And you're doing it in a way that you're changing people's lives. And I'm sure that you get tons of DMs where people are constantly like, thank you. This story of Unwell Barbell changed my life. It gives me sense of purpose.
Yeah.
Right. And so that's discipleness, and I think that that's where people have a hard time talking about their faith, because they think it's all about religion.
Yeah.
But it's what your character reflects is what actually is moving with Christ. Whether it's you're always in the book or you're not, it's the fact that you resemble of what true discipleness is. And that is, you're out here inspiring people and making a sense of purpose out there that is giving people a sense of purpose to better themselves. And that's really what Christ wants us all to do, right? He doesn't always have to say, well, you got to go to church every single Sunday, right? And as long as you show up, you are great. And it's like, no, that's not. It's because like I know a lot of people that show up to church on a Sunday and walk away, and 6 days out of the 7 days, they're not who they're meant to be, just because they're like looking for that fluff. But it's like you resemble a characteristic of what it takes to become a faithful man. And that's the reflection of true faith, in my opinion.
I think that, I think you nailed it. I think I'd be so much more open to it if it wasn't, like you're saying, the people that do one day and then are so different and so fake the other like 6 days. I remember my mom had to work a bit more when I was younger. And so like families would always be like, why does your mom never come and stuff? And I'm like, oh, she's working. And they're like, oh, like that is horrible. And like I guess she would get comments like she should quit her job so she can go to church on Sunday. And I was like, she's like dropping us off and going to work so she could like help provide for us. And then so trying to give us some faith. And I honestly think that's like why I just got a bad taste in my mouth. And I do think, being with my partner, I have become a lot more faithful. And so I think she's helped me a lot that way, helped me a lot more open to the idea. And I definitely think I played victim a little too long of just like, he wouldn't have this happen to me.
Yeah.
Right. And now that it's like worked out a bit more, it's like, okay, like maybe like maybe he did this for this reason, right? And so, or she, don't want to discriminate, right? But yeah, so I think that was a big part of it too. It's just like, why would he make me have such a horrible, which seemed like my entire life at that point. So yeah, I think that it's definitely not something I would be like so closed off to. Like I said, I'm like more on the fence of it, because I think that like if we did die and there was like the afterlife and stuff, I'd be like, this made sense. Like, I do think that like you said of just like the good characteristics, and like that's more what I would believe in, is just like if you're a good person, you would go. You don't have to do everything exactly how they all say. And if you're just a good person, that you go to quote unquote heaven for it, and then if you're not, then you wouldn't. And so I think that's what I just hope to be the best person and try to help as many people as I can, and I will deal with the consequences of if that wasn't the right way after, right? But
yeah, well, I truly believe that it is, whatever you believe, higher purpose, God, whatever path that you're on, when I think that your character reflects a good mission and you went through a struggle time where you're like, there's no other route to this, right? Like there's nothing else. Like you are the example of what a good characteristic of a person is, because like without struggle, there is going to be no growth. There is going to be no insight on the way that you're able to view things, right? And so I don't think there's ever right or wrong. I think as long as your characteristics reflect exactly what you say, then only good things will come from that. And I think you'll impact far more people by doing that. It's when people think that their characteristics is good, but then they cast judgment for people that are making sacrifices for their family, because that's the truth. Like when you think about what the Bible says is like, you have God in your relationship, you have your spouse, and you have your kids. And if that's the sacrifices that you're making in order for them to live a good life, that's what Christ doesn't say church, then him, then your spouse, then your kids. It's literally Christ, your spouse, your kids. It's the order and then your family. That's your life right there. And when you think that a building is going to be the reflection of your faith, then you're going to cast away a lot of people, and you wonder why that there's like hesitancy in everything, and especially in the state that we live in. It's also a very difficult path, because you're like, well, I see what you're doing, but then your characteristics don't reflect what you're doing. I'm being judged because I didn't grow up with faith, and it was very difficult for me to find a belief, because I was like, if that is real, again, why is this happening to me? Number two, when I do seek for help, I'm being judged. Mm-hmm. And I had a very difficult time. And I realized that if there's a higher purpose that created us all equal, he would never cast judgment upon us, especially the way that he sacrificed his life for us, right? And so, I love seeing people's insights, because I think there's no wrong answer. Because as long as the character reflects, that's the right path.
Yeah, I think, again, it's just the environment is so crucial no matter what it is. Mm-hmm. And so I was talking to one of my buddies who moved here, and he grew up Mormon, and he's like, why is like Mormon culture so different here? And I was like, dude, I don't know. He's like, and he was just going in like, he's not having a good experience, and he's grown up Mormon and stuff, and like, and so it's just really interesting that, if it was a little bit more like the gym community and was just like more open hands. And I'm sure there are other churches here that do that. And I mean, I know I met some great people when I went to church too. Mm-hmm. So it's definitely not everyone who's Mormon, or, you can never just generalize like that. But I think that just if my environment was different, I don't know. I wonder how it would have turned out. It would have been interesting to see what struggles or what other obstacles, if I would have, dove into drugs or not, or, whatever it was. Mm-hmm. So,
well, I think every path is meant to happen, right? Sure. Because the impact that you're making with Unwell, it goes to show all of those struggles that you face is what shaped you who you are and where you're going to become. And you're obviously getting people that are like, hey, we want you to build a gym. The reason for that is because they want to be closer to what your mission is. Yeah. And I think that when somebody can really, truly build a community around their struggle, you were meant to do this. You were meant to make that impact, and you were meant to like go through all that pain and struggle and like the dark times and those conversations that you had that you were like, man, I don't like what you're saying to me, but like it's forcing me to give a different perspective, because that different perspective that you shaped yourself into is what's leading you to be a good person for other people, to give them that step. And that's why I believe that everybody has a story and everybody needs to voice their opinion. You say the same thing on your YouTube. It's like, I want people to feel Unwell Barbell as a place that takes some weight off of your shoulders, right? That when you show up to the gym, or you're in a lifestyle and you see the brand, it represents, you're taking that weight off your shoulder. Yeah. And that is what God says, right? If you want to talk about faith, or that's what higher purpose is, right, is something that you take a struggled moment where you're at a breaking point of your life and you have to make a pivot, and now you're taking that and changing so many other people's lives. Like, you are doing what a good person is supposed to do. And I think that's the cool impact that you're making on people, man.
I love it. Yeah, I think it's really cool just randomly seeing people in the shirt and just going and talking to them and just like hearing like, oh, like it's been, I've resonated so much with the brand. Like, I've been really struggling, and just like for a brief moment I can be there and be a support for someone. And so I think it's really cool, and hopefully, inspire others to do something either similar or just, find their own thing to help as many people as possible in whatever way they can find.
It's cool, man. And it's needed because that amplifies more people like yourself. And that's why I think it's important to spread your story and your awareness. And what leads into that is, if you could speak one truth into the next generation of people that maybe have similar experience as you or the direction that you're going, what would it be?
What do you mean one truth for it?
Meaning like, what is like, you can even go in like, what is one big advice that you would give to the next generation of people to...
One of the things that someone told me that stuck with me a lot was just like, what if it turned out better than you can imagine? And it was at a time that I hated my life again. And I already started Unwell Barbell, but I hated my job, hated my boss, hated everything. It was actually my boss that said this to me, though, so funny enough. But I was just like, I don't know what to do. Like, Unwell Barbell is not where I can go full time yet. Like, and like, what if I was like, I hate this job. Like, coming here every day sucks. And like, it was a work from home, and it was like 1 to 10 p.m. And so it's just like, wasn't going out there, wasn't doing anything. Like, and he was just telling me, just take the leap. And I was like, dude, what if I fail? What if I, just all the excuses I can think of why I shouldn't do this full time, why it's not the time. And he was just like, what if it turned out better than you could imagine, though? And so, and that one, I don't know, that one resonated with me a lot. And so just having people not to be realistic with their goals and think as high up as you can and try to go past that even.
Love it, dude. Well, dude, I truly appreciate you being on the podcast and sharing your story, because it's needed. And I think the community that you're building with Unwell, I know I've echoed this multiple times, is inspiring a ton of people. I see in the space where I was once, where I was doing cinematic content, it's really cool to see people with the Unwell hat on, and they're promoting your business. It's really, really cool to see that. I've talked to multiple people that are representing the brand or have been a part of it, and they speak nothing but high volume about you. And so what you're doing is amazing things, and it's cool to see where you guys are going to go with it. So with that being said, anybody that's watching this on YouTube or Spotify or Apple, how can they find you guys on social?
Just at Unwell Barbell on everything. If you want to reach out to me personally, just at Zachary, OHH Zachary. Always happy to be there for anyone who is going through it or just needs someone to lean on. Always try to be that person, and if I can't be there right away, I will get back to you as soon as possible. So
awesome, man. Well, I appreciate you, and those guys that are watching, the only thing that I ask for you guys to do is like, share, comment, whatever it is. If you got some sort of information off of this that can take into your life that makes your life a little bit easier and better, give it a follow, give it a share, give it a like, and we'll see you in the next episode.